悲しいほど光り出した白い闇切り裂く翼になれ
There are 4 ways to write in Japanese. The first way is our way, the English alphabet. They call it Ro-maji, which literally means Roman characters. These are used for acronyms, Japanese names when they're not being used in Japan, like Honda or Mitsubishi or Toyota, or foreign words in an otherwise Japanese text if you want to keep it looking formal and it's not very easy to put into Japanese text. Don't get too comfy with these, because you won't be using it too often. The Ro-maji look foreign, because they are foreign. Don't get accustomed to writing Japanese in your own language, or rather your own alphabet. Next up are the kana, the Hiragana and the Katakana, collectively known as the kana. So what are the kana? The kana are a syllabary. Now what's a syllabary? A syllabary is a set of written characters representing syllables. That's not an alphabet. An alphabet is a set of letters in a fixed order used to represent basic sounds, which can change. Basic sounds can change. In a syllabary, the sounds are almost always exactly the same. So, if someone told you that the kana are the Japanese alphabet, somebody lied. Sorry, it's a syllabary. That's totally different. So, the hiragana. This is the most important form of the kana, because you're going to be using them more. Get friendly with them. When will you use them? They're used for sentence particles, like of. Don't worry about that quite yet. But that's when you're going to use them, for tiny words like that. For words with no kanji. Words for which the writer doesn't know the kanji. Words for which the reader will not likely know the kanji, and assistance in kanji readings. Now, I'm assuming that you don't know what a kanji is. That's fine. We'll cover that a little later. Next up is the katakana. The katakana are a little easier to understand, but they're not used quite as often, and they're not anywhere near as important as the hiragana. They're used in foreign words, foreign names, words with obscure kanji, onomatopoeia, which are words that sound like their meaning, like boom, emphasis. If you want to emphasize something, you might put it in katakana, which is basically the equivalent of putting it in italics or bold, and scientific words. You're usually going to find katakana in foreign words and onomatopoeia. Those are the big ones. You might see it once in a while for emphasis. As for the foreign names and the scientific words, and especially the words with obscure kanji, don't worry about that too much. But enough about that. What in the world is a kanji? Well, the kanji are the fourth writing system, and they're the most important. Basically, the kanji have meanings. The kana have sounds. Now obviously, you have to read the kanji somehow. They have to be said a certain way. But a kanji does not represent a sound. A kana does. A kana doesn't have a meaning all to its own, unless it's used in a sentence. A kanji does. A kanji always has a connotated meaning. Another way to differentiate between the kana and the kanji is simply this. Kana are easy, and kanji are difficult, or hard. What makes kana easy and kanji hard? Well, let me put it this way. When you're dealing with the kana, the hiragana or the katakana, they always make the same sound. It never changes. Ever. So, here you see the hiragana a on top and the katakana a beneath it. They're different in their uses, but they mean exactly the same thing. That simple sound, which just is a. In Ro-maji, it's simply recognized as an A. That never changes, ever. So that's all pretty easy. How about this guy? This is a kanji. For the record, it means up or above. That's its connotation, but it doesn't have a single reading. It may look pretty harmless, but when it comes down to it, when you actually want to say it, you've got a couple options. Need I say more? Next up, there are a lot less kana to remember. The kana represent any one of 71 sounds, and a lot of them are just re-representations of other kana, so they look exactly the same with a very slight difference. So, there's only 71 of each to remember, and that's 142. Now, while that might be considerably bigger than the 26 letters in the alphabet, trust me, if you devote enough time to them, these will come at you really easy, and you're going to use them all the time. Besides, they only have their own sounds. So 142 really isn't that daunting. It's not actually that much to remember. If it is, here's a bit of a reality check. Remember this guy? It's the same kanji. This is one of a large group of kanji. Here's something to know about the kanji. The kanji are Chinese characters, because Japanese people used to speak Chinese, but then they branched off from China and they made their own language using the same characters. Today, there's really no comparing Japanese to Chinese. They don't sound a thing alike. But their characters are often the same. In fact, some words are identical. The Chinese, 4 or 5 years ago, made a big list to try and take all the kanji and put them together in one giant dictionary. Here's the thing. It was one heck of a dictionary. Each one having a single meaning to it. The same meaning. All of them were different kanji, all of them had different strokes and slightly different connotations. And when the Japanese piled them all together, they got this lovely nuther. 106,231 kanji in total. So, no normal human being can remember all that. The Japanese don't use anywhere near that many kanji, though they do still have quite a few tens of thousands of them up their sleeves. But here's the thing, you don't need to know all of them in order to really know how to write and recognize written Japanese. The Japanese have narrowed it down to 1,946 essential characters. Anything else is explained using the hiragana. Remember those? Remember how those are used for obscure kanji or kanji that you don't know? If you don't know the kanji but you do know the word, write it out in hiragana and you'll be alright. It's best to know the kanji because you'll look more intelligent and you'll be more specific with your meaning. 1,946 seems really daunting, but we'll cover it. It's not so bad, especially if you practice a lot. Lastly, the hiragana and katakana are both pretty easy to write. The one on your left is or he. It's usually pronounced he. It's the same in both hiragana and katakana, and it's one simple stroke like that. In the most you're going to get, if you really count strokes by how many times you have to lift your pencil off the paper, it's going to be no more than 6. On your right is whole. Actually, it's bull, with those little quotation mark thingies on it. In both hiragana on top and katakana on the bottom. If that looks complicated to you, just wait. What you see before you now is the number 1 in kanji. It's pretty simple, right? If it looks like a big dash to you, your instincts are spot on. However, that's about as easy as the kanji come. Some kanji aren't so bad, and then you... well... yeah, you get the idea.